do not want to do this at all. I don't want to wait. I want to go now. The deal is, I have one objective that I have to get done at this point, which is cover this race. That is the Olympic qualifier. Well, I got 3 shots, one being the race, the other 2 are kind of to figure it out. They already catch him?
The first 2 that we're filming really are trial runs for us.
How do you do it? Do you shoot it in slow-mo? Do you shoot it from above? Do you shoot it profile? Do you capture it? Do you need like 3 different angles to make it dynamic?
Is there a red light going?
Yep. Something that we were really trying to figure out was how are we going to film the finish?
Here we go.
I mean, in racing, that's the ultimate kind of moment in any race is when they cross that line. Is it a photo finish?
It's perfect. It went really well. I shot today. Everybody was shooting today. And that's the fun part. You start grabbing the story as it's happening.
Major curveball thrown my way was after the last time trial. I got a call from within the race organizing team. Our ally in there gave me a call and said, "I'm sorry, man, but you guys crossed too many lines on that time trial. We can't use any motorcycles." And so I'm freaking out. So I brought Kristen, our associate producer, to an emergency meeting with the race organizer.
He's the organizer, I'm the head of security, and that's what you need to know.
Okay.
You know?
It was us saying, hey, admission of guilt. We want to talk with you to see whatever compromise we can make to have at least the motorcycles on the course with our camera guys.
If they're able to
It's not allowed.
Right.
You know?
I know.
At first it started with no motorcycles. I'm sorry guys, that's the rules. Then I was just kind of like, what if you could communicate to them? So the answer became, hey, find some walkie-talkies, have the motorcycle drivers have them, and have a single one that I can communicate to both of them. And so he's saying that now our riders have to ride forwards on the motorcycles, that it's, the Continental Championship rule book, section 2, whatever, and nobody knew what we would do. The race organizer kind of had this moment where he was like, after a few laps in the race, after people get calm, if you were to turn around backwards...
I'm not going to stop you afterwards and say, why did you turn around, or, you catch my drift.
And so we're like, duly noted. We get to the last time trial, so it's really our last chance to test everything out. And one of the ideas that we're trying to put into play is like, what if we could put a GoPro on a pole? That if we could raise it up like 10 feet above us, we could really probably try some very inventive stuff. And the difficulty was we had to kind of figure out on the spot in the morning, kind of, before we went out there, how are we going to attach this GoPro to the pole? We're innovative guys. Like the parts weren't there. I have duct tape. We think it'll work. You want to try this shot out. This is just us figuring out a way to get it done on the spot.
Oh, wow. That looks great.
Jerry rigged, but it'll work.
TC came by and was not happy.
Gosh, my weak link on productions like this is, like, I have a ton of grace, but then when I snap, I snap. It's a shitstorm really quick. This is just very unprofessional. This is not preparing in the morning. Yeah. Like, we have all the parts for this. This is just bullshit.
I think TC was just reacting, but subconsciously, I think, it was a very strategic move to kind of get the crew ready for what was to come.
Hey, be safe. Good luck, okay? All right, thanks, guys. See you guys. The adventures of filmmaking.
We went out on a practice run today, and we were basically reduced to being about 20 meters in front of the whole pack of racers.
Matt, can you hear me? If you can, please move forward. I want you to be with my vehicle in the front.
Just coming to the realization that we may not be able to get the close-ups of Adrian. It was extremely frustrating.
So the motorbikes just came by, Peloton came by, the lead car came by. And the current setup's not going to work. We've got a lot of planning to do. We had always, even in pre-production, kind of entertained the idea of what if we could have a helicopter?
We started the morning by going to the airport and meeting with the helicopter pilots and talking about the route and how low we could go, and will the wind wash of being too low affect the riders, and how do you sit in the helicopter, how do you film out of a helicopter, how do you make sure you don't drop the camera.
TC, you know, was like a kid in a candy shop because he got one more thing to add to the fold of his storytelling of this event that was going to make a big difference. You know, it was just one of those things that's expensive, but you get what you pay for. After that point, it was really just to get back in a hotel room, get a map of Kigali, highlight the racetrack, and then start putting sticky notes and post-it notes and stars around, okay, this is where we're going to do this. This is where we're going to put this guy. This is where we're going to put this girl. We drove the course today. Just to give you a frame of reference of the map, this is the stadium and the start finish.
This is a pretty long stretch coming.
Right here.
Yeah, this stretch all the way till you get to this corner. I mean, it's pretty interesting, but I think, as this thing says, this is kind of a strategic point. Really now it was about how do we take the talent in this room and place it into this race course.
So, okay, finish line, start finish, TC. Motorbikes. Jake and Jeremy. The main thing that I knew I needed to walk away with was this kind of sense of confidence and peace that we planned what we could plan without planning things that are impossible to plan. And once we made those decisions, it was kind of like everyone knows their roles, everyone's got their gear, and now we just have to do it. And we just got to live with whatever consequences come from the choices we've made. Well, we woke up earlier than any human should. It was really gonna happen. Like, it's race day.
I went to bed that night thinking, you know what, I got this, this is great. But then I woke up around 4 a.m. And I had this nightmare, and it was very vivid. And I had never been up in a helicopter, but it was me in the helicopter shooting, except I was completely terrified. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I can't do this. Shook awake, and I didn't sleep for the rest of that morning.
Everybody was up early. All of the equipment was prepped, and people were out in the lobby waiting for Abdul to come pick us up. It didn't really start to get crazy until we get this call that's from the pilot, and he says, hey, I'm somewhere, my house is somewhere within the race course, and I can't get out, all the roads are blocked. So I can't make it to the airport. So we're like, all right, we'll find a way to come get you. So we divide crews. The way we figured out how to get to this pilot was our driver drives down the wrong way on a highway, dodges cars. We're constantly hiding from the race organizers because we're not supposed to be driving on the racetrack. And he breaks his way into this neighborhood, and we pick up the pilot in our own car and get him to the airport because we were not gonna miss out on this opportunity. So we get there, and we think we have, you know, over an hour and a half of prep. We're gonna take a test flight, try some shots, figure out how everything worked. Well, we go on that test flight, and we come back.
We land for like a minute, and they're like, you know what, we gotta go right back up right now.
The president's helicopter is gonna be leaving in the next half hour, and he completely shuts down the whole airfield when he comes to use the airport.
Okay, let's go!
So we have to lift off way ahead of schedule, and my concern is like, well, where are we gonna go? And I'm not trying to create any undue attention to us from the race organizers at this point. So it's really a chess match right now. And we start circling the start line, and the race isn't gonna start for 30 minutes. We're burning money and fuel and time, and we decide we have to land. Well, the nearest place to land was right by the start line. And that was the one part that really kind of made me nervous because I didn't want to create a huge scene. As we start landing, I'm looking out the side of the cockpit,
suddenly we're surrounded.
And they start banging on like the glass windows, and they're like trying to twirl like the rear rotor with their hands like after it's shut down. And that pilot jumps out and he's kicking people away, and he's like, yeah, this is just the way it is. Anytime a helicopter lands, the crowds come.
And I was a little nervous about taking off. He's like, yeah, don't, you know, those kids get too close, their heads will come off. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is real.
I finally raise up the race director on the walkie-talkie.
Okay, we will stay 150 meters when we are above the peloton.
That's it. Safety of the riders first, eh?
Thank you, JP.
Okay, Greg, thank you.
And he's like, we're all good, about to start, and we raise off the ground. Once people were in position and they knew what they needed to do, they were confident in accomplishing their objective, you just gotta kind of let it go.
It's like being on a roller coaster. You lock that thing down and, okay, we're on it.
The guy reaches his hand in front and he's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the crowd goes nuts. What happens in cycling, at least in this race, is like the weak are falling off the back. So we're getting closer and closer to getting our money shots, but we're having to wait for them because it's just kind of this mess of colors the entire time. So
we were not in the most ideal place. We were kind of at the mercy of our drivers, and
we're like, we need Adrian, we need to get close to him, we need to be able to film him. He's our story, but he's lost in all these other cyclists. So
for a while, we didn't think we were going to get any good shots.
He's just stopping for a second, I'm not sure why.
A motorcycle broke down and enabled our cameraman that just happened to be there.
when they finally got it working again, they were kind of right in the middle of the pack and were able to film Adrian.
I mean, essentially, everything's going as planned.
There's 3 laps to go. Everyone is on their feet because they know he's gonna do it. So he's not expending any energy. He's letting like the 5 people in front of him take all of the wind, and he's just cruising on the hill where he has his shot to make his move to get to the front. The unthinkable happens.
And in one moment, everything changes for the entire movie.
So you go from having the best chance in the world and it being written to a struggle in like the most epic battle you can possibly imagine. And for the last 3 laps, he's in the fight of his life to have a shot. I'll let you watch the movie to find out what happens.
You realize how out of control documentary is. It's like the world stops and starts going in slow motion.
It's a weird place to be because you have a job to do, but you also know what's on the line for the story.
And at that moment, you've got to go right back to your basics. I had to go back to my basics. Where are my characters? What's their transformation? When everything hit the finish line, the camera constantly has to be with the action. I had a camera, so that was kind of my safety net, is no matter what, if the plan fell apart, there was always plan B or C, which was I could shoot it myself. But they're great guys. I mean, the second I turned around, it was Jeremy, Sean, and I literally sprinting across a stadium to find him. And from the moment that he crossed the finish line till he left and kind of took himself out of the arena, we were with him. Jeremy's there, Sean's there, and we spread out, shot 2 cameras, and got great coverage. So
I believe we successfully covered this race.
I mean, we were there for the moments that mattered.
It was all pretty seamless.
Yeah, like any movie, you know, you get through a climax and somehow the story has to wrap up. And it's really those moments after the climax when you really kind of say what it's all about. A few of us, like Skeleton Crew, went out to the gravesite of the greatest catastrophe to happen to Team Rwanda.
it was Adrian's best friend, probably the most promising athlete for the Rwandan team. So we had gotten to Godfrey's grave to film it, and
It's just this like small patch of ground with a bunch of wooden crosses and none of them are marked. And so you have this kind of artistic integrity decision. Do you film a grave and call it Godfrey's grave, or do you need to film Godfrey's grave? And Abdul borrowed someone's scooter and rode into this village and walked around the neighborhood until he found somebody who knew him. We found one of the people who had grown up with him her entire life, and she had this amazingly personal, deeply intimate interview with TC.
I mean, you're seeing a gal saying, you know, he was changing our whole community, he was changing our country.
It'll just be 1 minute.
Jake? At one point, she said, could we have a moment of silence and would you pray for us? And I was kind of caught off guard.
And he just completely broke down.
This is Janet. After Godfrey's parents died, Godfrey lived with Janet, and she asked if we would have a moment of silence for him. And I'd like to pray if you guys are okay with that.
I think we all felt, you know, the weight of the importance of this team to the country.
It was in that moment of silence I really realized what this whole thing was about, and just exactly what the story we were making.